Hi everyone, my name is Boone and I am a lesbian. That is a label that I feel confident using for myself as of right now. But I want to talk about in this video why over the past 3 months-ish I was not as comfortable using it as I used to be and as I am now. Back in October, and I want to say first, if you haven't seen my first video, Realizing I Was a Trans Lesbian, I would suggest you watch that just because I am going to be building upon a lot of what I said in that video. But back in October, I want to say like close to November, I kind of noticed that, and well, even earlier than this, just I kind of was casually noticing that like there were some guys that I found attractive. Not necessarily in the same way that I found girls attractive, but I just knew on some level, like, yeah, like I could see how they could be attractive. And I didn't really think much of it for a while. I was just like, yeah, I mean, I've always been only attracted to girls. So this is just like one or two guys, whatever. I can appreciate them as being objectively attractive. Like, whatever. That doesn't have to change my orientation or anything. But in October, I guess maybe it happened like one or two more times, and it just like I felt more, I would realize like there were certain guys, like I could imagine being in a relationship with this person. And so I was like, okay, if I can imagine that, I probably shouldn't be calling myself a lesbian. And so once I sort of had those thoughts, I just stopped, and I'm like, I'm going to take a break from this term, and I'm going to try to figure this out and think about it. And so I did. And I was really back and forth for the next few months. I wasn't really sure, but I knew that I did have this sort of desire to be bisexual. And I have for a while, to tell you the truth, just to be attracted to men in some way. Because as a trans woman, I struggle with dysphoria a lot, and I struggle with lots of things that make me feel like I'm not valid and I'm not actually a woman, even though I know in my heart of hearts I am, and I've always felt that since I was like 8 or 9. But I've just noticed that like a lot of people who come out later in life are often attracted to their own gender. Like, I know a lot of gay trans people, and those people are 100% valid, and I've never questioned that. But I also know a lot of people who realize they're a girl, like when, trans women who realize they're a girl much earlier in life, who tend to be straight or bi. And obviously people come with an orientation and gender. They're not linked. If you're one thing, it doesn't mean you're going to be this thing in terms of your sexuality. And I know that, and I'm conscious of that. But there was a part of me that felt like, I would just be so much more valid if I knew I was trans when I was like 2 and was attracted to men. But I couldn't say that about myself. And so whenever I felt like I wasn't bi, I kind of felt disappointed. Like, I just thought that being attached to or being attracted to men would give me this attachment to womanhood that I didn't really have before. Because unfortunately, the way things are, we kind of view, or a lot of people view womanhood, or an integral part of it is, having some attraction to men, or like having a relationship with men in some way. And that sucks, but it's just true. That's just kind of how a lot of people see it. And I couldn't help myself from I was susceptible to that same kind of idea. And so I felt dysphoric to only be attracted to women. Like, that felt like a thing that guys were supposed to be. And obviously I know plenty of cis lesbians, right? Like, that's just, lesbians are real and they're great. But I had a lot of internalized homophobia and internalized transphobia that made it hard for me to come to terms with the fact that that's what I was. So when I kind of realized, hey, maybe I'm bi, I sort of left that as an opportunity to feel more comfortable and valid in my gender identity. And I would say in probably early December was like the peak point of me thinking I probably was bi. Because I was kind of getting like what I interpreted as crushes on guys, like casual crushes. And I could just kind of see guys as more attractive because I was thinking in a more open way about sexuality. Like I've mentioned in my estrogen video, before HRT, my sex drive and my libido and my attraction to people was much more visually based. It was more physical. Like, I would see a girl, think she's pretty, and then, like, all of the attraction would kind of just go from there. But after being on HRT, it's sort of more like I have to develop an emotional connection before the desire for physical intimacy could come. Like, it's my attraction to someone is more based around knowing them and having that emotional intimacy. And so once I realized that, I kind of started reevaluating my sexuality. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I could be bi, like maybe I could be into guys and people who aren't women, because I haven't really explored this new way of experiencing sexuality as much. Like, maybe the only real reason I was attracted to only girls before was because my sex drive was just dominated by testosterone. I don't know. It was like, I was trying to kind of justify it in some way, but it made sense to me in some ways. And so for a while in that month, I thought maybe I was bi. And I can't tell you exactly how I came to realize that wasn't true. I think it was mostly just time went on and I started to think about it more. And although my mind could kind of have these like ideas and fantasies about being with a guy, I had to go through these like mental gymnastics to really get there. Like, it just wasn't as easy, or it didn't make me feel as comfortable as imagining myself being with a girl, or a woman-aligned person. Like, it just didn't feel the same. And although I thought sometimes like maybe you know, it's just a different kind of attraction, like I just sort of knew in the back of my mind I was pushing for this. I knew that I wanted to be bi because I felt like it would make me feel more comfortable in my gender identity. And it, you know, it kind of sucked for a bit to come to that realization, because it did make me dysphoric to be only attracted to girls, and I shouldn't. And I want any other trans lesbian who's watching this to know that you are 100% valid, and your sexual orientation doesn't make you any less valid as a woman. But that was something I had a hard time getting around, and it felt shitty to feel that way. I felt like bad about it. I felt like that was a really shitty viewpoint to have. But it was there, and I couldn't entirely get around it. But really just recently, because I've still been very back and forth, just a few days ago, I just kind of had this epiphany, like, I know that I've been pushing for this. I know that I want to be bi for these reasons, but I also just know I'm not. Like, I know in my heart of hearts that I'm just so into girls and I'm not into anyone else. It's like women and women-aligned people, it's just always been that way, and I have to go through these mental gymnastics to feel attraction to other people. And it felt really liberating to think that, because I knew I wasn't lying to myself anymore. And the other time, because there was another point in December where I was like, yeah, no, I'm a lesbian. And I felt super good about that and super comfortable. So having those two experiences where coming back to that term felt really nice. I was just like, okay, I know this is what I'm meant to express myself as. I know this is my orientation. It feels so great to be confident in it. And I've also realized that the more stable I just feel in my mental health and in my life, and the more confident I feel in my gender identity, the more confident I feel calling myself a lesbian. So with all of those things considered, I realized that I was just sort of trying to be bi, and it wasn't really something that was coming natural. And I think that there have been plenty of benefits for me having that, you know, kind of experimentation period of questioning it. Like, I think it can be good to think of things in a different way and just try to, you know, question your perception of things a little bit. And now I feel like I'm more confident than I ever was in my identity, and it's helpful and it feels really nice. And I was talking recently with another trans lesbian friend of mine, and something that we kind of talked about that I found really interesting was that, like, we kind of did go through a lot of cis lesbians go through growing up. And, like, I've always struggled feeling like I didn't really have the same stories that I would hear from cis lesbians, and it made it difficult for me to, like, hold on to that label for a while, because I kind of didn't feel like I deserved it, or I just didn't earn it because I didn't have discrimination early on for, you know, being attracted to girls. But at the same time, there kind of always was this expectation and pressure for me to be attracted to guys. As I've mentioned before, a lot of people when I was growing up thought I was a gay boy just because of the way I presented myself and everything. Like, even though I didn't call myself a girl, because I didn't really have the words for that. I didn't think that was possible. Like, I still presented myself very femininely in a lot of ways. And so, because, you know, I wasn't in any relationships or anything, people just kind of perceived I was gay. Like, I was when I was like 9 and 10 and all that stuff, when I was kind of like peak realizing I was a girl. And so it felt weird. It felt really weird to be only attracted to women. Like, it felt not right. And I think that was just me being a lesbian and not realizing it. That's how it kind of showed itself early on. Like, I did feel like I wanted to be gay. I remember having that feeling. And I've also talked to some other trans people about how they've had similar experiences. Like, I wanted to be a gay boy. Like, that just felt like it made the most sense. And I was kind of upset that I couldn't experience any attraction to guys. I tried, like, from an early age, and I just never could. But as I've grown up, like, I've just realized that there's no way I'm not a girl. I just can't deny it, you know, and I tried to repress it. It never felt right. Like, my attraction to girls, I was always kind of ashamed of. And when I thought of myself as a guy, and I thought of myself as a guy being attracted to girls, I just felt shame, and I wanted to repress it. And yeah, I never really felt like people totally understood my attraction. And I just felt like it was being interpreted in the wrong way. Like, because if anyone perceived me as a guy and perceived me as being attracted to women, it just felt uncomfortable to me and not right. And so the more I go along in my transition, and the more I feel comfortable with who I am as a girl, and the more people perceive me that way, the more comfortable I have felt using the term lesbian. So yeah, it feels pretty good right now. And you never know, things can change. I know that's possible, and I know that I might question again, because I have a tendency to question myself and kind of panic about these sorts of things, but it feels good at this moment. And I really appreciate you all listening to me ramble again about my sexuality and identity, because it's a big thing for me, and I plan to keep making videos like this because they're therapeutic for me, and I know that some people have watched them and been able to see some of their own experiences reflected, which I think is really important. So if you have any questions or you have suggestions for future videos, please let me know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.